certainly seen. It's called the Surgeon's Photograph. Very grainy black and white photo of Loch Ness, which is the body of water just opening up on our left ahead of us. And you've got like a very kind of blurry, long-necked creature popping its head out of the water. Now this is actually an acknowledged hoax. The man who took the photograph got a little model of a monster, and he went and bought a little like child's submarine toy thing, and he put the monster on top of it and he pushed it out into the loch, and he took a picture from a perspective where you couldn't really tell that the thing was only a foot high, and then he sent it to the papers as a depiction of this monster that he'd seen. And then it kind of caused a bit of monster mania around Loch Ness. So you had lots of other people coming here to try and find the Loch Ness monster. To this day, there are people who kind of left their whole life behind to come and live in a cabin on the shores of Loch Ness and wait for the monster. I believe there is quite a large reward, something like £1 million, for anyone who can definitively prove the existence of a monster in Loch Ness. Nobody's managed it quite yet, but I guess there's still time. She may have been in there over 1,000 years at this point, so it doesn't seem like she's going anywhere soon. One reason that there is a lot of potential for there to be something we don't know about hiding in Loch Ness is because the volume of water in this is just absolutely vast. So Loch Ness is not that big a lake by American standards. It's only about 22 miles long and approximately a mile wide. But in terms of volume of water, there is more water in Loch Ness than there is in all of the rivers and lakes in England and Wales combined. So we're talking about a huge amount of fresh water. The visibility within it is very poor because it's kind of silty and extremely cold. So it's quite hard to see very much beneath the surface of the loch. It's also very, very deep. So you see how steep the sides of the bank up to our right hand side are. The road has been kind of cut into the steepness of that bank. You see it continues going steeply downhill on our left. Because this is a fault line, it's basically a very, very steep and deep valley filled with water. So in places Loch Ness is over 800 feet deep, and the water is always very, very cold. So even in the summer, it never gets up more than about 5 degrees Celsius, which is, I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but cold. 39, Andrew says. Wow. So cold. Wow. Too cold to want to get in for a swim. And there's not very many places where you easily can get into the loch. Mostly it's very steep sides going straight down under the deep water as well. But the site where Urquhart Castle was built is one of the only places where you have a bit of flat land at the side of the loch where you can land boats. So nowadays they do cruises out on the loch to go and look for the monster and just admire the scenery and so on. But back in the day, that would have been a really useful thing. You would have needed a jetty for setting off on military campaigns, trading voyages, anything. You needed to be able to get to your castle in a boat in a location like this, basically. And Urquhart Castle sits on a little kind of promontory that sticks out into the loch. So everywhere else you have pretty steep sides, and then you have this kind of flat bit about halfway down that makes an ideal location for a fortress. The first people to establish a fortress there are probably the